Now the NDA government has proposed an anti-Naxal doctrine. See, the UPA government's approach towards Naxalism was sort of a long-term strategy. Like UPA government has mainly focused on implementing land reforms, and they have introduced an act called PESA Act, or Panchayat Extension to the Scheduled Areas Act. When Panchayati Raj was introduced, it was not properly implemented in 5th schedule areas. It was not implemented in 5th schedule areas because the condition in those areas were different. But in 1996, the government, sort of created Panchayats and Grama Sabhas respecting the tradition of these areas. Special case of Panchayats and Grama Sabhas were created explicitly for, and they were given much more autonomy, and these were created in these 5th schedule areas. So that was a very good move in, and that was a step in the right direction. But the NDA government mainly focused on achieving quick results or achieving short-term results. For that, the Home Minister Rajnath Singh has proposed a new policy, and the main theme in his policy is to attract the best talent to serve in these troubled areas. See, the problem was worst people serving in this area. So the Home Minister's idea is to get the best people to serve in this area. So state governments are supposed to employ the most competent district collectors, SPs and sub-divisional officers in these Naxalite affected areas for a fixed term of 3 years. These public officials, they will be given several incentives like extra allowances, posting of their own choice in the next term if they are alive. Anyway, then exposure visits abroad and like central deputation, etc. So these sort of perks were given to these employees to get them served in the Naxalite affected areas. Then another thing the NDA government has focused was on implementing integrated action plan that was proposed by this planning commission. So this integrated action plan, basically it's all about implementing these schemes in a proper manner. The central government was giving a lot of money to the state government to develop Naxalism infected areas, and the state government was giving a lot of money to the district governments. But worst affected areas remain underdeveloped. So this money was getting lost somewhere along the lines. So the planning commission, when it found out about the issue, the planning commission proposed to the government that you need to give this fund directly to the lower level blocks like Grama Sabhas and Panchayats to implement the schemes. They are more accountable to the local population. That is the only way to prevent such kind of corruption in the system. Then another major important thing is reaching out to Adivasis. That is the most important, or that is the central theme in this new anti-Naxal doctrine of the present government. So by reaching out to Adivasis, we mean bringing Adivasis into the mainstream India and giving more recognition to their Adivasi icons, naming airports and roads after them, celebrating their anniversaries and these sort of things, and celebrating Adivasi festivals, creating museums, cultural centers, etc. for these sort of people. Another thing the government is planning is to develop, take 3 or 4 Naxal affected areas and make a development hub on these areas, like create roads. Then often the problem is that even when the government spend a lot of money on developing these areas, people are not ready to start any like road construction work on or railway construction work on these areas, because there might be immediate Naxal threat to such kind of developmental works. So for that, the government is planning to create an engineering wing in CRPF. See, in these areas, most often even medical services are being provided by CRPF. For example, doctors are afraid to serve in such kind of areas. So that is another strategy of the government, and in order to check the implementation of this scheme, the government has started an oversight mechanism. So in this oversight mechanism to check the implementation of this new anti-Naxal doctrine, the chairperson will be the Home Minister. So now it is Rajnath Singh. And there will be a core group of ministers like Forest Minister, Rural Development Minister, Finance Minister, etc. They will be members in that group, and Chief ministers of 10 left-wing affected states will be special invitees in this oversight mechanism. But this is a balanced approach. By balanced approach, what we mean is that at one side there is development, and at the other side there is strictly dealing with those who indulge in violence. But the problem with problem in achieving that is that police stations remain ill-equipped. See, often there is not enough police or enough central armed police force support to police stations, and Naxals often raid police station to get weapons. So that is a big issue in properly implementing this new anti-Naxal doctrine. So, and often Naxals will employ, whenever the central armed police forces hunts down Naxals, they will do what we call tactical retreat. They will go to hiding and all, and this central armed police forces will go back thinking that Naxal threat is over. But Naxals are actually going to hiding, and they are trying to consolidate their strength and recruit more people and all. So the government needs to, this is not a victory, this is an illusion of victory. So the government needs to be prepared for future escalations of conflicts. And during this peace time in which Naxalites are hiding, we need to enter their areas, and the government needs to offer development to these people. Now in 2016, like a few weeks back, there was a very great thing happened. Central government implemented telecom network rollout in Naxal affected areas, basically in 10 states in a record time. That was a very great thing, and it boosted development in the red corridor, and it was implemented by using public-private partnership. So a private company called Vihan Networks Limited and BSNL jointly implemented this scheme. It was implemented as part of Pragati program of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And what is this Pragati program all about? Pragati stands for proactive governance and timely implementation. So the government will try to implement or address the grievances of the common man, and the union government will be monitoring the progress on different important schemes done by the union government as well as the state government. And every month, the fourth Wednesday is called Pragati Day, and on that day, the Prime Minister will directly interact with the bureaucrats. So it was done by Vihan Networks Limited and BSNL. The biggest issue in this region is that there is no electricity, there is lack of roads, etc. So the peculiarity of this telecom network rollout was that it was done by using solar technology. And now it is the largest green mobile network anywhere in the world. That was a legendary achievement for BSNL. And another achievement is that these towers and solar equipments were completely indigenously developed and made in India. So this has allowed the tribal people to communicate with the family and their friends, and the government aims to provide agricultural services through telecom network. That is the key or the core objective of the government by implementing telecom network in such areas. And government is also planning to bring banking and other commercial activities and emergency healthcare services to such Naxalism infected areas. So hence governance became more easier and interactive. So this is the only way to counter Naxalism. So this is a very good example from the recent past. So you can cite these sort of current affairs examples in your answer paper. That will give a huge plus point when compared to other students.